Me. I am your leader.
Mhm.
I am your leader. What's up, everybody? It's me, Sam Martin. I am on the scene again here at the Prescott Executive Studios. But this one, we are coming with a little bit of education. Actually, it's a lot of education. And if you want to stay tuned and ask some questions, feel free to do so because we have an expert in the house. But we first have to start it just like this. All right, guys. I just want to make sure that we can have audio. It looks like it's test, test, test. Well, here. There it is. Here. You got to have that echo effect. So, guys, when I do this actual vlogcast, it's all about education. It's all about getting to know what's happening in our community and around our community. And just because we have a great partnership, we love to also talk with our partners in regards to what they offer our community. So this one right here is something that is a very advanced, but it's also very needed for you. So if you guys want to know anything, please feel free to comment in the comment section and we'll try to answer as we go. So without further ado, tell everybody who you are and what makes you famous.
Hey, good morning, Sam. My name's Brian Scott. I'm a financial advisor with Riley Wealth Management in Prescott. I've been practicing financial advising here in the Prescott area for about 8 years.
And this is actually a fairly big time for your business in regards to people not knowing where to invest their money and their time. And that's the reason why we're putting this together. And I tell you what, he gave me a 5-page report, but we will go through it as long as you guys are entertained by it. If not, we're just going to go ahead and just start throwing out some information for you guys. And all you guys got to do is just follow along. And if you have any questions, feel free to comment in the comment section and we'll see it right here in front of us. And then you guys will be able to go ahead and ask those questions. And hopefully Brian will be able to go ahead and answer them as so. If not, if you guys want to follow him and all of his handles, it's right here at the bottom. We got Facebook, we got X, we also got Instagram. So yeah, and LinkedIn. So if you guys want to go ahead and follow him on any of those, he has a lot of great stuff. But first, let's talk about what he gave me. So the topic, the top 5 retirement mistakes that men don't know they're making. And this and me, I don't even know if I should be making mistakes or am I making a mistake now or whatnot. So let's just get into it, man. What is at the head of this title and what does it mean?
Okay, well, so let me first explain the why behind this particular topic. So at Riley and me personally, we feel very strongly that the number one reason people aren't reaching their financial goals is their own mistakes, not the results of financial markets, not whether or not the market's up or down or sideways or whatever. It really is a matter of people's decisions over time that results in either getting across the finish line to where you want to be or just not quite making it. And so because of that, we of course spend time educating people on the fundamentals of finance, but we also like to spend a lot of time talking about potential mistakes that people are making so that we can help them avoid them and get across that finish line. So that's why we're talking about this. And I think the genesis of why we're talking about the 5 mistakes that men make specifically is simply just because I'm a father of 5 girls. So I'm the only guy in the house. And so maybe I wanted to kind of look at things from a male perspective for this month's vlog.
Which is pretty interesting because, I mean, we were talking just a tad bit right before we even started this, and some of the things and the thoughts that I have in regards to what I see it's happening in our world, in our country, in our day-to-day, living. I mean, taxes having to be paid, investments have to be invested, homes that are being bought or not being bought. I mean, there's so much stuff to it. And in order for me to think that I have a good rest of my life, I'm on the edge of my seat, always thinking like, is this business that I have right now going to carry me for the rest of my life? Is this thought in my head, if this investment of what I feel like I'm investing in is going to help me carry through the rest of my life? And I remember talking with some financial advisors. I mean, it might have been a multi-level marketing, but they said something to me that I was so profound. It was regards to knowing what you're going to be doing when you're 60, 65 years old. Are you going to be working inside of the only place that will hire you, which is the courtesy clerk at Fry's? And I was like, oh, that is so heartfelt, because technically, you see the elderly working there, and the question is like, are they working there because they need to be paid, or are they working there because they just want some interaction with life, and that's the only person that will hire them? But in my head, I'm thinking to myself, what can I do to go ahead and avoid those things? So I'm assuming that this is what this is all about right now.
Yeah, man.
Not making any mistakes, or even actually asking and questioning your mistakes.
Yeah.
And as far as curiosity, when is the prime time to go ahead and actually really start making these questions? I'm 47. Am I too late?
No, absolutely not. So I think he has two questions, like how do we, what can we do to make sure we're going to be okay? And two, when do we start? So the answer to the second question is easy. Yesterday, just start.
Yep.
Even if you do make a couple mistakes or have a couple setbacks, setting, the discipline of setting some money aside and putting it in some kind of investment account. Of course, a financial advisor can help you get to the right accounts and the right investments, but just getting going, kind of starting the engine and making it work. Because the secret ingredient with investing is time, really, more than anything. It's just getting in the market and staying there over a long time. Then the other thing, the question about, am I going to be okay? You hit the nail on the head. That is the question. What I found before I even started my practice, back when I was a Marine, I took a finance class at a local church, and it was just kind of like basics for families. And what I learned from that course was Americans are stressed out about money, and it's not getting better, it's getting worse. And I think a big part of the reason it's getting worse is there's a lack of sound wisdom and advice in the marketplace. Instead of hearing things like I just said, get started now, we're hearing things like, well, what about the elections, or what about Iran, and all this noise that kind of builds us up into a frenzy and frequently prevents us from taking meaningful steps to get where we want to go. So, I mean, you nailed it, man. People are stressed out about money. That's why I started doing this work, because I want to try and overcome that situation, help people feel more confident and get on track over time. So, does that answer your question?
Yeah, most definitely. I mean, it doesn't exactly put me into like, this is what you're doing tomorrow, San Martin, in order for you to go ahead and have the financial security for the rest of your life, which is totally fine. I think it's a working progress, but the idea right now is to figure out what steps can we make currently right now for any viewer out there that is willing and wanting to go ahead and actually figure out if their future is going to be set. And you said it, you the best time to start was yesterday. I think there was a saying that says, what was the best time to plant a tree? Well, 25 years ago.
Right.
And then the other one is today. And so I'm like, you got to love that. But what can we do? I mean, I think that the conversation today is,
you can certainly avoid making some big mistakes.
Yeah,
right?
yeah. So let's go over some of these big mistakes, or these what we have highlighted right here. They believe Social Security will run out. They reject proven simplicity. I mean, let's go through each one of these stages, because we were supposed to feel comfortable with our Social Security. How's that doing right now?
Well, there are, I won't soften it. There are issues with Social Security. The projections are saying we don't have enough younger people paying into the system to fund all the liabilities for the income for the older generations. That's been a problem for a long time. And so the reason I believe it's a mistake to just believe Social Security will run out is because you would have to assume that Congress is going to do absolutely nothing to correct the situation. And the fact of the matter is, they've got maybe half a dozen or a dozen different tools at their disposal that they can use to keep Social Security moving. Just the simplest one, the one that they've done in the past, is they can simply just push the full retirement age to a later age because people are living longer, right? So years back, it was 65 is when you were able to retire with your full benefit. For my generation, for us, San, it's probably about 66 or 67, depending on exactly when you were born. So what's to stop Uncle Sam from saying, hey, you can retire with your full benefit at 69 now instead of 67? And that would save the system a whole bunch of money. I mean, there's probably, just off the top of my head, they could raise the Social Security tax. We're all paying about 15% into the system now. Maybe they bump that to 17% to make it all work. So I think it's a mistake to believe it's going to just vanish, because they can do things to fix it. And I mean, picture being the Congress or the congressman who says, yep, sorry, no more checks are going out. we ran out of money. I mean, it would be political suicide. And so there's a lot of really strong political incentive to do something, right? So they may kick the can down the road on occasion, but at some point, somebody's going to go, okay, here's what we're going to do, right? Even if it's not terribly popular, the incentive is there to help them or to make them, force them to do something about this situation.
So, I mean, there's a lot of people right now are a little bit disconnected from what the government says and what they're trying to help us do. Let's go ahead and set them aside.
Mm-hmm.
And what can we do
Mm-hmm.
as a family, as a person? What can we do to help ourselves currently right now?
Mm-hmm.
As far as like, investment, thought process. I mean, I know the number one thing is to make sure you reach out to Brian and get one of these one-on-one consultations in order for him to really get involved with you. But as far as like a generalized deal, what can we do to go ahead and help set us up for the future?
Okay. Yeah. Great question. So step number one, turn off the TV or turn off the internet. So if you're
kill your TV,
if you've got that background noise of this election's going to be this, and there's war coming, and Social Security's insolvent, all those terrible, scary headlines tend to prevent us from taking action. So turn off the TV. If you've got to have the news in the morning when you're drinking your coffee, read it. It's less emotional if you're reading it than having these messages broadcast.
Have that scary music in the background.
Yeah.
I would look at it. I mean, even if I put like this on there, breaking news. I wonder if everyone's like, oh gosh, what's happening?
What's that?
What's going on over here?
Tell us what's going on, Stan. Yeah. So it's meant to draw you in, to scare you, and that is that stress, that fear is probably the biggest problem that people are dealing with. Is we're not confident in our next steps. We don't know what we should be doing. So turn off the TV. Step number two, seriously, pick up the phone and talk to a professional, really. Even if you don't come in and have an appointment with me, but you spend 10, 15 minutes on the phone, I can kind of go, okay, yeah, here's what you got coming in. Save this much, go to your bank, open a Roth. It's real easy. Just kind of basics get going. So after you turn off the TV, the next step is to find a way to live under your means. All right. Bottom line is if you're making 80 grand a year, let's find a way to live on 70, right? So that you can put 8 or 10,000 away for yourself each year. Okay. So turn off the TV, live within your means. And then the other one, I would always encourage everybody to start funding a Roth IRA. This is a fairly straightforward account. You can open with an advisor. You can open it online. You can go to the local bank and just say, hey, Brian told me to open a Roth IRA. They can help you with that right there and then. But the reason I focus on Roth IRAs is because anything you put in there is going to grow tax-free. So if you're 40 years old and you put $500 or $200 a month every month into that Roth IRA and it grows 8% per year, well, maybe by the time you're 65 years old, you got $350,000 saved up, and it's tax-free, right? So if you want to pull 50 out to go buy a car or take that vacation when you're 60 years old, you can do it, and you don't have to worry about sending $5,000 or whatever it is to Uncle Sam. So turn the TV off. Call somebody and start a Roth IRA.
Because everybody still needs to breathe, eat, utilize the necessities of life in general, and you still need a roof over your head. Like all that stuff is needed. And when in my business, I always need businesses to go ahead and invest into their business. So ultimately, we need businesses to survive, but businesses need us to go ahead and get everybody to know what's happening. But it seems like everybody's just sitting still for whatever reason. And I think politics does have a big old hearsay, she said stuff, but what can we really do? And this is the best line I've ever heard in a long time. Is turn off your TV, stop listening to what's going on. But then again, you can't really deny the numbers. So the numbers are where everybody looks at. Everybody's like always fixated on those numbers. So a couple of weeks ago, I think it was a couple of weeks ago, right? Where the stock market did some really crazy things. I know a lot of people were kind of stressed out about that. What was your thoughts and what was your take? Because I'm pretty sure that you had a lot of people calling you like, hey, what's going on, Brian?
Yeah. I mean, so I'm serving about 150 households. So you can imagine there was a few people that picked up the phone and said, what do I need to do? What are you doing? And so the first thing I would tell anybody who's kind of worried about that kind of situation is just to remind them just how normal it is. So just on average, if you're investing in the stock market in some way, whether you just got an exchange traded fund or you went and bought a couple shares of Apple, whatever it is, what you can tend to expect is every fourth or fifth year, you'll see about a 20 or 25% drop. Okay. Happens on average every fourth or fifth year. Very normal.
During elections.
No, elections not. So the last one we had was 2022.
Oh.
All right, and there was just kind of a, when did Joe come? 2020, right? So that was right in the middle of a presidency. So we saw like a 23% dip in 2022, and of course, 8 months later, 9 months later, it went right back up, and everybody kept moving along. So it's incredibly normal. So what we saw just earlier this month, we saw about a 10 or 11% dip, kind of depending on the metric that you're looking at.
Which was the largest it has been since it started, right, with the stock market?
That's the largest since 2022. That was the biggest dip we've seen.
So headlines once again.
Screw
you over.
yeah.
Oh my gosh, it's the lowest it's ever been. Like ever. Like I actually read that headline saying this is the lowest it's ever been. And I started laughing because I was like, I don't know about you, man, but I was around in 2008 and that was a long time.
Yeah. Yeah, that was particularly unusual. But the 20-25% dips are normal. The 10% dip that I just described happens on average about once a year. So congratulations, we just had it. And the market's already back up. We're up about 19% so far for the year. And I think that's interesting to point out because you knew there was something going on that was bad. All my clients knew something that was going on that was bad, but I'd be willing to bet you didn't know that the stock market was up almost 20% for the year. That doesn't make a headline.
Yeah.
Right. The only headline is when it goes down a little bit.
And I think that a lot of investors really do feed off of, fear. Mm-hmm. Like I really do believe that people do mistakenly wrong things during fear. Mm-hmm. They buy, they sell, they hold on. I mean, there's a lot of things that they do because of fear. Yeah. And sometimes fear is what makes people move a little bit.
Yeah. So, it can lead to a lot of mistakes, frankly. So one interesting statistic that I go back to over and over again is the average investor only averages about 3% per year on their investments. That's a real problem because most people know that inflation is roughly, what would you guess inflation is on an average annual basis?
Like I said, numbers are numbers, and I just don't follow them because sometimes I think that 2 + 2 = 5.
Okay. Well, inflation is about...
You guys know what I'm talking about. Sorry.
Yeah, no worries. Inflation's about 3% per year. So if you're only making 3% on your savings and your investing, you're not getting ahead, right? You're not improving your situation in any sense. So you're parting with your money. Maybe you're saving $5,000 a year, so you're not getting to enjoy that money. And then 20 years down the road, when you go to spend it, you don't have a better situation, right? You're just in the exact same boat. And that's interesting because if people just went out and picked the simplest investment strategy, like a simple mutual fund or an exchange traded fund, just something you could go buy on fidelity.com by yourself without an advisor, if you just bought that, you'd probably average about 8% per year. So if you just did the simplest thing, you'd make 8%, and yet people are still making like 3% on average. So what's the deal, right? Investing has only gotten more affordable, easier to get to. You can go to these websites and go buy a fund for almost for free now. Okay, so it's gotten more available, more or less expensive, easier to do, and yet people are still not doing any better. And the reason I credit that to is people are making mistakes. The big one, a lot of the mistakes I see is people reacting in fear to a moment, maybe selling out of a good investment while it's down. Right. So just picture 2008, right? If you just, whatever you owned, Apple or whatever it was, if you just owned it for 3 more years and waited, you'd be in a very, very good situation right now. But if, you gave in 3 months into that recession and just sold it, well, maybe you lost 25% on that particular investment. And so fear is a major driver. So that the news cycle is a major driver of fear. Fear is a major driver of mistakes. So that's, of course, why I said, turn the darn TV off.
Well, Niles, man, he brings up, same thing that you said. He says, can you imagine how stable the markets would be if emotions were taken out of the equation? Drives me nuts how emotional investors are. And it's true. I mean, like, it's hands down, if you really want to go ahead and move somebody, you got to move them with the most, like, impulsive emotion and it's fear and love. Sometimes you do some crazy things under love also major things. Well, I think more major things under love than you would in fear. But it really is it's a true deal. And everybody I'm not saying that everybody likes to go ahead and play off of those, but we do.
Mhm.
And so that kind of makes us making, what would you say, mistakes.
Mhm.
You actually have something in here that says they believe the lie that Social Security will run out. I know that it's a little bit going back to what we were talking about,
Mhm.
but the first paragraph here, I'll just read the first two sentences. Women have what popular financial commentator Dave Ramsey calls a security gland, and after years of financial advising, this security gland.
Mhm.
I mean, I don't think it's just women that have that, but at the same time,
Mhm.
what does that mean? Is this where the fear part comes in? Is this where the doubt comes in? Like, oh my God, this is crazy. Do you see the numbers falling? They're
Mhm.
falling. and,
Yeah.
and is this what this means right here? Is that security gland or?
Yeah, well, so men, of course, are not immune to fear, right? All of humanity has to deal with that. But what I've witnessed is women tend to be focused more on the long term, and men seem to be more focused on the here, kind of near term situation. And I think that leads men to be willing to take on more risk, even if that's maybe not the best scenario. Okay, so just a silly example. I joined the Marines when I was 21 years old. And, you can guess the Marine Corps, at least when I was in, I don't know what it is today, but it was only like 3% female. So you get 97% of an organization that's all male, and they're all like, on average, like 20 years old.
Mm-hmm.
Man, we were jumping out of planes, we were getting in fights, we were scuba diving, we were barefoot skiing, right? Like all these young men were taking all these risks. And I think it's well understood that especially young men are open to that sense of adventure, that risk, and so forth. That can get you in trouble when it comes to financing, or when it comes to finance. And with women, I'm generalizing, not everybody's the same, but with women, I tend to notice that if we can map out a plan that'll get them where they want to go in 20, 25 years, they're much more likely to stick to that plan through the ups and downs and stay focused long term. And so that security gland, like, am I going to be okay? Well, yes, you are. Here's the plan. Historical data shows you that you're going to be fine. Women will stick to it. And interestingly enough, ladies are better, on average, are better investors than men, which when I read that in grad school, I was surprised to find that out. But after years of practicing finance, I can kind of see it. Where guys are kind of going off on the latest and greatest, ladies are just sticking to it, kind of the what is it, the tortoise versus the hare,
Yeah.
right? So that's just one difference I see between the two genders, and I think that the cure for that is to have, for women, have good men in your life that you can collaborate with, whether it's a professional or a boyfriend, husband,
Their
brother.
money. Sorry. Sorry.
Yeah.
I had to say it.
So there's Sans advice, right? Have a sugar daddy.
Have a sugar daddy.
Nothing wrong with that.
Just kidding.
Nothing wrong with that. But yeah, so the two genders, I think, when they can collaborate together, I think that it adds value, because at times you do need to take risk, and guys can see that, and tend to lean into that, and the ladies, you got to stay focused long term, and I think the ladies tend to be better at that on average.
But this is one of the most educated things that could possibly happen for anybody that's starting off into the world of the adulthood. I mean, let's just get everybody ready and started. I wanted to, I always aid my younger nieces and nephews, starting now. They're 13 years old. I'm like, start now. And they're like, what are you talking about? I want to be a kid. I was like, no. 13, start now, get it ready, get it started, so you can go ahead and have somewhat a foot in the freaking in the game by the time you get to the age of 18. Why can't we really educate our children at a very younger age so they can go ahead and be put into the right place? I mean, what can we do with our children that can help set them up for a financial future that is good for them, for college, for vehicles, for houses? What can we do? Currently, right now, the younger generation is not buying homes because they can't afford it. They're not having children because they can't afford it. Now, what is really going on? Like, what can we do for the parents out there right now that have 13, 16, and 17-year-olds getting ready to go out into the workforce? Is there any kind of a little bit of advice what you could do for them as far as education, or maybe slide them in the right direction? What can you do?
Oh yeah, there's a lot that can be done here, and unfortunately, I think the average American household isn't. Finance isn't something that's discussed. It's something that a lot of people are uncomfortable with, or maybe don't feel like they have a handle on, so they're not qualified to teach your kids, and that's not the way to go. We absolutely have to be teaching this in the home, right?
Mhm.
I have heard people say, well, the school should teach finance instead of chemistry. I agree with that. I took chemistry when I was a junior in high school. Haven't really used that, but I use finance at home and at work all day, every day, right?
Yeah.
So I agree with that, but it has to start with the home. And I think where you start there is you have to, ultimately what you're doing is you're building lifetime habits. And so what you want to do is have your kids doing some kind of work, some kind of task in the house, and then paying them for that work based on their, their performance. How many towels did you fold? Okay, 5, that's worth this. Or you folded 10, it's worth a little more. So they can see that feedback loop between, okay, I'm doing work, I'm creating some output, I'm creating value, and then of course the reward for doing that hard work. So you're building that in. But then once they get paid, then you want to build in the other habit, which is kind of looking at where the money's going. And so what just to keep it real simple, what we do with our girls, we've got 5 of them. We do a give, save, and spend category. And so if they get $10 at the end of the week for their chores, okay, let's put $1 in the give, let's put $1 in the save for the future, and then you can do whatever you want with the other 8. And so we're building in that mindset of, okay, I can't devour, I can't spend every dollar that comes in. I've got to set it aside for good causes, for my future, things like that. And so it starts. Our second to youngest daughter is 4 years old, and I use the towel example because that's kind of all she can do right now. And frankly, it's not very helpful because she's 4 and she'll fold it, and one towel will be over here and another towel will be, I have to go find the towels. But we're building that skill set even at 4 years old. Yeah. So that's what we're doing in our house.
It's a mindset. Like if you start early and then just play it out as this is a day-to-day scenario, this is what you do, this is how you do it. It's not a drug like, oh my gosh, you're making me do the laundry again. It's life skills. I mean, even if it's that small in general. So I don't want to get too far off of this thing, but let's see. Oh, this is a heartfelt one right here, and this is something that I actually was talking with one of my cousins about because I feel like they have a home that is like. It seemed a little bit like scary about how this is all set up. Yeah. But they fail to prepare for their own passing. One of the things that I just put on me is a life insurance, and I felt like it was a responsible thing to do. But what does a life insurance policy do for you? And I'm not. And then once again, I don't know what you did right here. I just read the headline. But what can we do to prepare for our passing, as far as men and women out there?
Yeah, well, that's a great question. And it's number 4 on the list, but it's probably the one that I'm most passionate about because I've been doing this long enough that I've seen, unfortunately, guys transition into poor health or sadly, pass away early or earlier than one would expect. And they leave a huge mess for the ladies in their life, or even for their children, you name it. And so this is one of those things that it's one of those mistakes that of course affects men, but gosh, it's like a web. It affects, everybody around them, their daughters, their sons, you name it. So to answer your question about life insurance, I believe life insurance is something that most people need and most people don't have enough of. But the primary purpose of life insurance is to replace your income should you pass away. And the reason that can be important is if you've got people that you want to bless or people that are actually depending on you. So just in my case, I've got my wife stays at home to care for our kids. We're homeschooling, I mentioned a moment ago before we started recording. So she's homeschooling, she's running the house. She doesn't have an independent income. And we've got these 5 girls to care for. So if I were to pass away, where would the money come from, right? She would have to go jump into the workforce. She probably wouldn't have a great job at first. She'd have to kind of, build up a skill set and reputation. So life insurance, I've got quite a bit of it because I know if something happened to me, they would need a decent amount of money to replace my income to, pay off the mortgage or fund college or what have you. Okay, so that's the main purpose of life insurance. Guys tend to not have enough or don't even want to have the conversation because we're going to live forever, right? One of the mistakes in here is that men believe they're bulletproof, right? So we don't want to talk about us getting old and passing away. But that's the purpose of life insurance. What I think typically what I'll see, especially guys maybe our age, is they'll say, well, I got a life insurance policy through my employer. That's good. But I think when you start looking at the details, it's maybe like $50,000 or $80,000. And if you've got like 3 kids at home and a mortgage, like what is $50,000 going to do to change your dependents' lives? Nothing.
Yeah.
Right.
And so that's just a little cushion before the.
Yeah. That's like some decision space, right? Yeah. Like you got like 6 months now of some cash to figure it out. And so it's not enough to say, oh, I got it through work. Check. No, you actually got to look at it. Go, okay, what is your household spending? What do we need? How long do we need it? And then do the math and then go buy a life insurance policy that covers that.
There's so much to talk about. I could keep talking and keep on asking the questions, but we are at our 30-minute mark. And I tell you guys this much is that every time we have these conversations, I think the only thing that we really need to know is what's next. And if you guys want to go ahead and be a part of this conversation or even a part of what Brian has going on, all of his information and all of his handles are been scrolling on the bottom. And if you guys want to reach out to him, he'd be more than willing and happy to go ahead and talk with you more about it. I'm going to ask one more question, and then we can go ahead and sum this up, because if you guys are still out there, I'm so happy that you're still there. Thank you. Let's see. They don't take advice. Let's just go on to that one. I know we're skipping a little bit, but like I said, 30 minutes, man, we can talk about this all day long. And sometimes, it's just a little bit of answers that will go ahead and set us up for a conversation. Yeah. But anyways, let's go to the last one. They don't take advice. What does that mean to you?
Well, so you and I are probably about the same age. And so I'm betting you took road trips when you were a kid. Did you ever have a road trip where your dad or your grandpa or something was driving the car and you got turned around and you're on some dirt road or you're off the 40 somewhere, just totally turned around, and dad won't stop and ask for directions? So you ever had that?
I think I've done that myself.
Yeah.
So
yeah,
I'll be like, I am guilty.
Right here, this guy. Yeah, absolutely. And so it's a common, the stereotype exists for a reason. And just as an example, my wife frequently orders like Wayfair, like do-it-yourself or IKEA furniture that you have to build yourself. Well, I'm 43 years old, and I just now started just glancing at the instructions. In previous years, I'll figure it out. I got this, right? I get my screwdriver out, and all of a sudden I've got a dresser that's crooked, right? So at 43, I've learned I got to at least glance at the instructions to get it right the first time. And so it's a silly example, but it's powerful in that every guy wants to prove that he can figure it out on his own. We can blaze our own trail. We got this, right? And that's a good thing. Guys are risk takers, and we can do a lot of exciting things with that mindset. But the reality is, when it comes to retirement planning, oftentimes when you're making a mistake, screwing something up, you're not destroying a $200 night table or end table, right? You're making a mistake that you probably won't even be aware of for another 10 or 15 years. And it'll probably be too late to do anything about it, right? Maybe you've underfunded retirement, or maybe you didn't get that life insurance policy when it was still affordable. Now you're 60 and it's just out of reach, right? So that's the mistake I see a lot of guys making. They don't take advice, and there's kind of two channels there. They don't take advice from a professional. That's one, but they also don't take advice from the ladies in their life. And I bet if there's ladies out there watching right now, they're going, oh my gosh, yes, just listen to me.
Please listen.
Yeah. So they don't take advice from the people in their life, especially the ladies. And so, that trailblazing mindset can be helpful, but the reality is, what I've witnessed is there's at least 3 benefits to having some collaboration, whether it's a professional or other people in your life, kind of, looking from the outside in to help you stay on track. You definitely are going to have guys, you're going to have a happier partner if you're listening to her and incorporating her advice and her ideas into whatever the plan is. So that's a big one. You're going to see better financial outcomes, because as you make decisions, you're going to be more precise, more consistent over time. And that's ultimately what leads to reaching your financial goals. It's just, making the most effective decisions over the long run without any mistakes. So you have better outcomes, you'll have a happier spouse. And the other one, and this is probably the biggest one, is you're just going to rest easier at night. All right, you're going to be less stressed about money if you're taking sound advice. And I'm not telling you to take advice from the guy you play golf with. Hey, I just hit it big with Bitcoin. Maybe that's not it, right? Because he's not a pro, he's not an expert in your life in any sense. But the people who care about you, who the people who are trying to, build you up, and especially if you're a spouse and you're creating a life together, you want to listen to those people. You want to incorporate their advice.
And that's a simplicity of it. I'm telling you that much. But you know what? Let's just face it. A lot of people get a lot of advice on that golf course.
Yeah.
Sometimes
I bring that up for a reason, right? I've heard that.
Yeah. Sometimes it's cool. Sometimes it's not. But hey, the best part about it is that there is Brian here, and he is willing and most available to go ahead and take on some more clients. But the number one thing is the educational part. So if you guys want to be educated, please follow his actual handles, which have been scrolling on the bottom here. You can find them on LinkedIn, you can find them on Instagram, Facebook, and also you can go ahead and find out his information on his website. So if you guys want to go ahead and be a part of that and ask more questions, feel free to go ahead and reach out to Brian Scott anytime, anywhere, any place, and then get a meeting so you guys can go ahead and have these conversations. And you know, if the hubby doesn't want to come through, you know, you're gonna have to make him. Just make him. Tell him he's going to go to a golf game that you set up.
Yeah, we're
and then you'll find him there like, hey, I got you. We'll make it happen for you guys. So guys, there's a lot more going on in this world, and we need you guys to pay attention, and this is one way to do it. So reach out to Brian Scott at Riley. Is it Riley?
Riley
Yeah. Wealth Management. Is there anything else you want to add before I end this broadcast?
Yeah, very briefly, just all my writings are you can find the links on the socials and on my website. But if you want to go over all 5 of the mistakes that guys are making, you want to make sure you're not missing anything, you can go to the socials. My blog for this month is titled "The Top 5 Retirement Mistakes That Men Don't Know They're Making." Click on that link. It's a quick read, and I think it'll be, if nothing else, it'll be some good conversation with friends or around the dinner table at night.
Yeah, everybody likes to talk about finances. No, they don't. And that's why we're bringing it to you guys. So with that being said, I'm going to get out of here because we all got things to do. And this is a midday educational moment. And if you guys want to know more or hear the whole conversation, all you got to do is press replay. So with that being said, I'm out of here. Peace, love, and happiness. Let it not be war. And remember, love always wins. We'll catch you guys later. Bye-bye.